Order. I know that the screen isn't gonna go on, but I'm just gonna, I heard something. All right.
Oh, that was me.
Oh, all right, so I'm calling us to order. This is a meeting of the advisory committee on Tuesday, March 3rd in the Houghton Building at 6:30 PM. We have just a few things on the agenda. The first thing is advisory committee business. We're gonna review some minutes and the draft of our annual report, and also potentially vote on a couple of the budgets that we weren't able to vote on before. And we're gonna talk about the Minuteman budget and then close things off with the Neshoba budget. But before we get into that, I just wanted to ask everybody here, if we split next Tuesday and met on the 17th to do all of our like cleanup stuff, would that be okay with folks?
What day?
Tuesday. Yeah. It is St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah,
So-
I'm gonna go out drinking too.
Yeah, well, we
I don't
could-
think so.
Oh, well, you stop early.
All right, so we'll probably end up doing that. All right, now here comes the boring part. I'm just gonna pass these around. This is a set of minutes. And if they look good to you, just initial them at the top. And then I'll start you on this, which is the draft of our annual report. And after you've,
Do we have the budgets from Minuteman and, the one we're doing?
Are they gonna be presenting that?
no, they'll be presenting it
I
tonight.
know if we can advance copy. Quick question on this one. Are they not doing anything this year?
Yeah, but since it describes last year,
I keep getting it.
yeah, I did double take too when I was
Yeah.
doing it.
I had one very minor copy of it.
Yeah.
That is. Department heads should be capitalized. Connie isn't here to fight the battle of the commas and
Hi, Dawn.
capital letters.
Glad I got a place to sit.
Shove everybody out of here.
So what is this? This is from last year, isn't it?
Yeah, this is last year's report from
I
last
had
year.
the same question, yeah.
It is. Yep.
I did the same reaction.
Not as good as last time.
Yep. So I'll make those changes.
I didn't. It wouldn't go to bat. It wouldn't go to the wall.
I thought they were counting up to retain the water.
She's almost done.
Well, we have until
Yeah.
6:50.
Oh, what?
We gotta talk about it. Everyone vote?
What?
Did you vote?
This
Yeah.
one?
The year-over-year difference is last year.
Was it busy?
No.
So it's
I
like-
was surprised to see the Democratic ballot was red and the Republican ballot was blue.
Well, it's sort of pink.
Yeah,
It's a little odd, but,
did see, when I was in New
You're all set.
Hampshire, I saw a Devout Patrick 2020 sign.
Okay, so we approve the minutes and then, does everybody have a copy of this, which is the workers' compensation budget 912? This is just a revised version. We had already voted on this one, but Jenny Jacobson provided a more up-to-date number. So
So what was the number we looked at previously?
the number that we had voted previously was like 34,000 and change. So this is higher.
37.
This is 37,649. But it's, I mean, I guess that is the number. So, I would entertain a motion to approve the workers' compensation at $37,649.
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Okay. So that was approved. Then the next one is 945, which is our other insurances. I just wanted to point out a few things. So if you look at 945-5740, which is liability insurance, that's $70,531. That includes our commercial package and our commercial umbrella from budget 194, so that's now folded into that. And then it also includes the 3 dashes below it. In previous years, so those have all been rolled up, because we're now with the new carrier. But the total bottom line for the other insurances budget is $116,022. So is there a motion to approve? Oh, go ahead.
Quick question, so this total here includes what was brought in from other insurance budgets? It's all been consolidated, is that what I understand?
Yeah, so, in budget 194, which is building insurance, that previously had 2 line items, one for a commercial package and one for a commercial umbrella. Those 2 have been consolidated under 945 liability insurance. And because we went with a new carrier, like last year, the total for all the insurances was roughly $140,000. This year, it's $116,022, so we've saved quite a bit of money by doing that, which is great.
And so what we did was the liability insurance is now an umbrella policy that replaces the individual items that are dashed now.
Yep, it replaces those 3, and it also includes the items in 190.
Oh, okay.
Items from 194.
All right. Makes sense.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, I was just, yeah,
Yep.
so this is nothing. It's all in here.
Yep.
Got it.
So is there a motion to approve for a total of $116,022?
I'll move we approve that.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. There's one other thing I was gonna pull up. Nanachka, I might need your number crunching help with this one, just to make sure I'm doing it right.
Of the insurance?
No, we're gonna do council on aging.
Oh.
All right, so if you recall, we didn't vote on the council on aging budget because there was a question about whether we wanted to keep 9,000 in for van drivers and 2,000 in for gasoline, although the council on aging had proposed that those be pulled out and put into a revolving fund. Selectman Bob Sikansky raised the point that if for some reason that article was voted down at town meeting, we wouldn't have the $11,000 in the operating budget. Our town administrator pointed out that in the unlikely event that the article were voted down, we could still move to reopen the budget and add it in. So I'm recommending that we take the $11,000 out of the council on aging budget. So instead of having a bottom line of $99,252, it would be $88,252. If, assuming the Knox
Yeah.
tells me that's right.
Yeah. So basically the original request.
Yes, exactly.
So does that mean that there will be, that the selectmen will approve a warrant article to create a revolving fund?
Yeah,
Oh, I see.
yeah. So I would entertain a motion to approve the council on aging budget as originally requested for a total of $88,252.
I so move.
I'll second it.
Great, all in favor say aye. Okay. I think that's it. So since you're here, Mr. Don Lowe, do you wanna just talk about Minuteman?
And Dave
Oh,
O'Connor
right,
is here, so.
come on up.
Nice to see everyone
Nice to
again.
see you again too. Thank you for being here.
So, just real quickly, as you all recall, we built a new school, and as of September, we started with the new school, and it was actually, again, if we looked at where we were many years ago, we actually came in a year early and on target. So, you know, it was opened, you know, still a little green. We still had some paint drying on the walls and some of the new features still going in, but the excitement is extremely palpable with the kids. Again, I go over there quite frequently, and all the kids are very happy to be in the new building. It's fantastic. Some of the new programs have started up, advanced manufacturing. There's the arts and entertainment engineering program that took a little bit longer to get some permitting because of the netting and it's the only facility actually in New England that has a full height flybridge. So just like that you would see in opera theaters and stuff like that, it's full 80 feet high with netting and lighting and substructures for lights and gaffs, and so this actually supports some of New England's new growing industries. So you know, a lot of us in town have been hearing about films being made in Hudson and Clinton and stuff like that. They all support gaffs and grips and roadies and that type of stuff. So the arts and entertainment engineering programs. They've got an elevator floor to be able to bring in, you know, staging and sets and roll them in. And the interesting thing about the concept of how the building was designed, it actually has, you know, connections to where different things are. So catering and food services is just around the corner, and carpentry and welding is off of a wing with rollers to be able to bring the staging stuff in. So it's very exciting. They've rebranded the cafe. It's called the District now instead of the Fife and Drum. Brand new stuff. They have updated the Facebook page, but it's exciting.
It is, it really is.
And like I said, some of the programs and stuff like that, well, they've had a number of programs that they've had, but some of the newer programs are in huge demand. And although we've reduced our member community, we were 16, we're now down to 10. The idea was based on the sizing of the school, is that we were limited by the MSBA budget to only have 650 students. So we have in-district students that have always attended, but we've also allowed out-of-district students to attend. And based on enrollment numbers, we're going to quickly grow out of that, and there won't be enough room for out-of-district students based on the interest that we have. I mean, our enrollment in Bolton, I think I said that ultimately I'd like to have 50 students from Bolton go. I mean, that's a desire from me. I don't know if we can afford it, but that's a different story. Lancaster has grown leaps and bounds. I think they had 20% of their 8th grade class decide to go.
Wow.
They're at
Which is
52,
huge.
I think they're at 52 right now.
Yeah. Stowe has also gone. We went from 11. We've been pretty much 11 students that we've been sending for years. We're now, with projections and acceptances for the next year, we're looking at about 15 students that have committed. So that's the existing 9 students, 10 students that we currently have, plus additional ones. And we always get some transfer students, people who move in, that we either in district in a different area of the state and have moved in. But we get a little bit of that shifting, but we can probably guesstimate that there'll be about 15. And 15's a real solid number for Bolton. Questions or things that you have?
I just wanted, I think I mentioned this in a prior meeting, but I think that, our conservation administrator, Rebecca Longval, got some volunteers from Minuteman to help with the vernal pool
The
assessment.
water assessments and stuff. Yeah, again, huge things like that. Years ago, now back when I was going to school at Assabet, my wife was going to Minuteman, the garden club here in town got all of their plants from horticulture. And so there was this partnership amongst things. In fact, the shed on my property was built by the school, and again, you had lots of residents that utilized the services. Automotive is there now, they've got 6 brand new bays. So, if people need breaks and that type of stuff, the kids are always looking for projects.
Yeah.
But again, it's a way to tie them into the community. Again, engineering services, the environmental, biotech, that type of stuff, hugely popular. There's a new program that they're getting qualifications on called Vet Tech. We don't have the facility for them yet, so that would actually be located in one of the rental properties, I think, is how that's working out. Right now it's being utilized by a daycare center, but they'll be vacating a different daycare center, not the one that's actually run by the students. Again, they're also looking at the repurposing of the land that currently houses the old building. So that's all gotta be demolished and hauled away and treated. But again, we're looking at fields and adding athletic fields and stuff like that. But also, some legislation has been passed through the partnership with the school and Superintendent McQuillan's work with some of the legislators to allow the school to actually enter into long-term lease and partnerships. And the idea behind that is to utilize some of the property to possibly partner with people who have the same mission as the school, but could help provide a revenue stream to possibly offset some additional costs to the communities and to improve the quality of services that we're talking, like the fields and stuff like that. Maybe actually get better fields for the kids. But those are all in the works. They're not anything that is locked in. But again, the school committee and the administration, first and foremost, we want to make sure that we provide a quality education for the kids, right? And it falls in line with the vocational education. But we also want to look at how do we benefit our communities and try and take some of the burden off of the people who are sending our students there. So, it's a balancing act. I mean, it costs more to utilize a vocational education. But the rewards for Massachusetts continue to pay huge dividends, and again, when we look around our community, and we have several people who have graduated from that and are big contributors to the community. So I thank you guys for continuing to support the school and the efforts.
Yeah. So who has the number?
The actual,
Yeah, I mean, I have one in our spreadsheet, but do you have, I wanna make sure it matches up with.
so I have version 2.2. Is that what you have
I don't
for the
know.
budget?
I just-
Again, the assessment for Bolton was 630,937.
That's last year's.
Okay, so
The number you have is.
oh, it's here 591,917.
Yep,
That's what I,
Okay,
okay.
So that's the coming fiscal year?
FY 2021.
21.
and that was as of what was the date on this? February 4th was the
Yeah, I expect that to be the final number. I just wanna say, that was the fifth building project I've worked on in my career, and the second school. I was the chairman of the first, the building committee went for the new Clinton High School, which now is not new anymore, it's only 20 years old, but there's no reward like working on a school building project. It's just, what a feeling when it's done,
Yeah.
and you're in there the first day, or, for the ribbon cutting or whatever, and you just see what was, a drawing, now you're walking around in it, it's just unbelievable. And, yeah, 144.9 million,
Hmm.
and on budget and a year early. You just, you can't beat it. It's just, it is incredible.
for those of us that either attended back a few years when it was opened, it was state of the art back then, but the advancements in technology and how they actually incorporate the community learning spaces and the way the kids interact using technology, it's fantastic.
Exactly.
I mean, it makes me jealous just going through and wishing, they had adult programs ready to go for us.
Yeah.
And one of the things that the superintendent did was he solicited alumni to serve on the building committee, and the two that remained, I don't remember how many started, but the two that remained, one is the current fire chief in Belmont, and one is the facilities manager for the new casino in Everett. So they've both done really well for themselves,
Yeah.
as Minuteman grads, so.
Wow. Awesome. Well, all good news.
Yeah.
And
I'd love to be able to tell you at some point that the assessments have dropped down to almost nothing, but we're never gonna be there,
I
right?
don't know.
So
But it did go down this year.
yeah, but again, you have to look at some of the things specifically to Bolton that changed that, right? We eliminated the middle school programs, which was a huge impact. Again, to our community's budget, but it also was a huge impact negatively to the benefits of the middle school students, and that was Superintendent Clenchey's decision. And it is a cost savings, but again, in our budget, right, in the Minuteman budget, those activities are projected to be done by the Neshoba district's budget. So it's not like the Bolton residents aren't still paying for those services. They just got moved from one account to another. So again, when you look at Neshoba's budget and there's an increase, there's a reason.
they're all right behind you. Just.
Well, I'm just saying, right? but the point is that it's not like you can have those services and not pay for them,
Right.
right? They have to go someplace, and so yeah, we see a decrease in Minuteman's budget, but those those services are invaluable to our middle school students. And so, we need to be able to prepare them, for real world, engineering, math and science issues, and that continues at the middle school,
Yeah.
so. Any other questions about Minuteman?
I got a couple.
Sure.
So, should we be expecting a significant increase next year, since you're saying we're going from, say, 11 students to 15 at a minimum?
So the assessment is a formula,
Sure.
and again, I wouldn't say it's going to be a huge difference, but there will be, you know, if you take the per capita student and multiply it down, you know, add your 8 more students, and you should see a linear growth based on that. You know, if we can get some of these legislation partnerships involved, and there's the ability to streamline budget items based on operating efficiencies and stuff like that, maybe the assessments will actually come down a little bit more. And it's a bargain, right? But I don't think it's gonna be one of these things where we're gonna have sticker shock next year. But as we increase in students, there's a cost associated with that. And you can look at the per student fee, if you take the number and you divided it, which is not a great assessment, but it's one way of looking at it, and then projected that out, it's gonna probably be close to that.
But as somebody who worked on the rewriting of the district agreement, we could see with a new school that there were gonna be some real skews in numbers, potentially year over year. The old agreement, it was 1 year at a time, it was what it was formulaic. But we pushed for and got approval for, now we use a 4-year rolling average. So just because we go from 11 to 15, it's not gonna go up 4 headcount equivalent, 1 year over the next.
You had mentioned 8 students, or it seemed like you mentioned just now while you're talking 8 instead of my 11 to 15.
So,
Yeah, so-
again, you know, I'm always hoping for more
Yeah,
more
sure,
additional
nothing
students,
wrong with
right?
that.
But, yeah,
Okay.
it literally would probably be what, 4 by your count, or by the
Right.
projections.
Right, but that, we're also running off of the currently accepted whatever, so.
Right, but again, you know, we haven't started September, right?
Yeah,
And,
that's fine.
based on people's interests and stuff like that, they're growing every day.
Sure.
You know,
That's
so and I've said this before, I'd love to see 50.
Yep.
25's a reasonable number.
So, along those lines, you said that it had been, the building had been built for 650 students, and you were nearing capacity before you started the year?
That's correct.
So-
But again, it's nearing capacity, with the interest in all the areas, right? We have, two other towns, Belmont is still participating, that are sending students. And there's potentially, individuals or towns that may wanna join the district.
Sure, so what happens when you're at 670, 80, 90, 800?
You have to go to a wait list.
Okay.
Already by
So-
FY23.
So I was gonna say, we'll be like Assabet and
Mhm.
like all the surrounding towns, right?
Okay.
That's
The
pretty
reality is that, you know, Assabet's had a waiting list since the 80s.
Right.
Mhm.
But it's projected that by FY23, I think it is, there won't be any out-of-district students in the school. And when we were designing the building, there was not a small group of people who were really raking us over the coals, who felt that we should be building it for 420.
Yeah.
And we said, no way, no way, and it was led by the school committee and the superintendent, who said, look, we're gonna see some pretty explosive growth here, and that's why we did it for 650.
Yeah, the original school, I think, was like 800, originally built for 800 students.
Right.
And for the most part, up until late 80s, early 90s, was in district only. I mean, you had a few students that were in there, but again, as it aged and started having some material building problems, it detracted from people going. And again, Wayne Technologies and stuff like that, charter schools, people decided to look at that. And again, the old vocational stigma still holds with a large number of people. It's sad, but it's true, right? They think it's just the building trades, and it's so much more than that. It's really, I mean, I go back to the things, we push to get our kids into Head Start programs in you know, in grammar school and pre-K and stuff like that. And when we think about, you know, these kids getting into high-paying professions, they look at Ivy League colleges and universities, but these kids that go to vocational schools have a leg up because they have an idea of what the vocations they are interested in. They've tried a bunch of ones that they don't like, and they kind of know, and they get accelerated with co-op and you know, some real life experience, and some of the newer technologies that are in there, like advanced manufacturing and that type of stuff, environmental engineering. They're pushing the sciences, and I can speak from my kids. You know, I've got one over at Johnson & Wales in culinary, and she's banging it out because she's you know, it's a 4-year program, and she already had 4 years of culinary before she went there. So the professors are like, "Oh, we haven't even covered that yet. How do you know that?" She's like, "Well, we covered it when I was like a sophomore in high school." And my eldest is at Fairfield University studying engineering, and you know, she's had a leg up because of the environmental engineering stuff, and so it's great, and they're not special. I mean, I love them and they're special to me, but that's typical for these kids. Their peers are just as ahead and have these you know, great bright futures. You know, I just look at it as a huge gem in our community, and we should be sending more.
No, I would agree.
Are there any other questions? No. Thank you so much. It's
All right.
always good to see you.
If you need me, give me a call.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Good to see you.
Nice to see you.
Thanks. Next up, Nashova. Hi, how are you?
We're doing well, thank you. Thank you for inviting us tonight, we really appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah, those are just extra handouts.
Do the, thank you. Here. Thank you. So we're breaking this up tonight to talk budget first, I think then MSBA, and then capital items. If that's what's listed.
Perfect.
And if I'm too long, just ask me to talk faster, and I'm happy to do that. Okay, great. So I'll just give a broad overview because the school committee has yet to finalize the budget. They're meeting again on Wednesday night, and I expect that we still may see some changes as of Wednesday night.
Tomorrow or next one?
No, next Wednesday, yeah, next Wednesday, so, basically what you're seeing right now is kind of the broad overarching view. So we'll go through, first of all, process before I get into the slide deck here. The process basically followed the same sort of process that we did last year. We include all of our principals as key players, they're key components in our process. This year we also added the department chairs. Pat went around and Michelle Cody went around and spoke with all of our high school department chairs as well about their budgets. So each person who oversees either a school or a unit is really the one in charge of creating their budget and managing it throughout the course of the year. And then of course it all feeds back through Michelle and Pat and myself. This year, of course, we were looking at trying to back into Bolton's number. That was really the key driver for us. And then whatever happened with the others was what happened with the others. And we'll go through that quickly in a minute here. So that, we generally don't try to see that is, and I've said that before sitting at this table, we generally try not to operate like that because we are the advocates for the children in our district. And so we, of course, would want to be advocating for more than we're putting out there But having said that, we also realize that the reality is there's only so much money that's available. We understand that. So that's why we had the eye on the prize, so to speak, of 3%, which is what we had talked about previously in, I want to say maybe January.
Yeah.
So that's where we've landed. So I'll just go through it quickly with you. FY21, the first page that you see there, there's the overall proposed budget of 58 million. The increase is 2,296,047. So the percentage increase for the school district over last year's is 4.12%.
Sorry,
So-
just a
I
question.
don't have an extra copy, but I need to. Just dawned on me. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I want to stop you there.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, if I assume that each of these towns, actually, it doesn't really matter if I assume that they're roughly equal or not. If, I would assume that I'd average these increases and I'd come up somewhere close to the 4%.
No, it doesn't work that way.
Where's the extra 1.5%, 2% coming from?
It doesn't, it actually doesn't work that way at all. Do you wanna jump in?
Well,
But
the state comes up with a number for each community,
Sure.
there's a wealth factor and,
the valuation of the land
Sure.
for each community.
For each community.
is different, and I know that you all know
and
that.
it's called the minimum local contribution.
Minimum, yeah, or the local, yes, sorry.
So, and that's the number,
Yeah.
that we use to formulate. So we start with this minimum number for Bolton. Bolton's number is different than Stowe and
Different from
I
Lancaster.
see.
So the
Our
percentages will
basis-
all be different.
Our basis is considerably higher than some of the other towns, I would say.
Right now. Like
Yeah, it
this
is
year, you know,
considerably
yeah,
higher.
yeah. So what that looks like to each of the towns is exactly what's listed down below. So even though that's what the number is over the 58 million, each of the towns is different.
Yep.
Okay, so that's where we're at. If you go over to the next page, the increase from last year then is 462,412, which is your 3%. Over the page, I'll let Pat quickly walk through the debt the debt part of the budget.
For fiscal year 21, you're gonna see an increase in the debt assessment. And there's two reasons. One, because of the borrowing for the oil tank repair and the leaching field. The other is, in prior years, we were able to use athletic revolving, which is our gate receipts from the turf field. Last year and this year, we had significant dips in the amount of revenue that came in for that because of mosquitoes and
Well, and that was a big player, that actually was a big player because
Was
we
a
didn't
big
have the
player
Friday
for
night
us.
football. The kids played on Saturday and we didn't draw nearly the number of people to the games. And so that had a dramatic effect on the gate receipts this year. So that we weren't able to offset it as much as we've been able to in past years.
Right, and that revolving fund has been drawn down so that now we're in a situation where we only want to have expenditures go against that revolving fund that won't exceed the revenues,
Yeah.
so.
Can I just interrupt for
Sure.
1 second? So these numbers here are
Built into that
built
number,
in, right, so
Yes.
then when we look at our assessment of 15,851,005,
right,
that's not only our operating assessment, but it also includes
Includes
the
your-
oil tank and the leach field.
yes, it does.
Okay, got it, thank you.
Over the page, the key budget drivers for the debt, do you wanna speak to that quickly?
And like I said, the track debt, I explained to you what that was with the revolving fund, the oil tank, leach field, this is the first year that we have payments on the debt for that. And enrollment changes at the high school. The debt assessment for any kind of capital at the high school there's a different formula for the assessment. It's a 3-year rolling, which makes it a little bit more volatile than the 5-year that we use for the overall assessment. So there's a little bit of an enrollment and percentage change there, so that could be another thing that affects an increase.
Some of the key budget drivers for us, when you're trying to back into 3%, obviously these types of percentages affect you dramatically.
Yeah.
So the Worcester, and these are not things that we have any control over. The Worcester Regional Retirement Assessment this year for us was 10.21%. Out of district tuition is there, an increase of 30%. And we've, oh, sorry, yes, go ahead.
On that, how many, do you know offhand how many different district placements we have? Not students, but just like how many different districts are we sending people to, do you know?
I don't know that I have that on the top of my head.
Yeah, I don't have that.
It's quite a few.
We can get that information.
Yeah, we can certainly get it to you.
But-
I was just curious.
But I guess the main reason for this is we've had a couple of move-ins, and when they move in from another state, usually you have a budget year to, they come from another town in Massachusetts, to prepare for that tuition. When they come from out of state, you don't have that luxury.
And we've had quite a few from out of state, actually, in Lancaster and Stowe, not quite as much as Bolton, but Lancaster and Stowe
So,
certainly.
On this one, what's 10% of what? The total budget?
No,
The
no,
increase.
the increase.
increase in the
Okay.
assessment from the prior year.
I have a
Okay.
question on that.
So,
I just had a quick question. The, Worcester Regional, do you guys get the discount if you pay on July first?
Yes, we take, that's
And
the
that is
discounted number.
Okay, I figured you were.
Third item that we've got on here is the additional staffing necessary for special education, and we had one regular ed addition, and that was K in Bolton, because of increase in numbers of registration in Bolton. The Unit A and Unit C contract matrix, it's more applicable really to the Unit A than it is to Unit C, but teachers get paid on steps and by lanes. So the steps are the experience, and the lanes is the education, whatever level of education it is. And very often our teachers continue to upgrade and such, so they might move a step and a lane, and then they have the 2%, the COLA, or whatever that COLA might be for that year. So when you've got people inside, right now we have just under 200, we've got about 170, 75, right around there, that are right in the middle of that matrix. That means that those teachers are moving up more than 2% every year until they hit the final lane,
All the way to the right.
all the way, yeah.
Yeah.
So that makes a huge difference for us. So again, to try to get to 3% is really particularly difficult, because you have a huge portion of your staff that is not at the 2% mark or 3% mark. They're at certainly higher than that.
Yeah.
So that's a piece. The Minuteman positions, I'm happy to speak to that. Yes, the decision comes out of the superintendent's office. He was absolutely correct. But it wasn't the superintendent's sole decision, and it wasn't without a lot of input from principals and such. It was awkward, because the people who were from Minuteman were on the Minuteman's contract, being paid the Minuteman's wage, and were really responsible to Minuteman for evaluation and everything else. So they were kind of standalone inside, and we took a look at it, and I did have this discussion with our town administrators a couple of times before we officially made the move. It made more sense that they were all part of the Neshoba Regional School District, rather than having the outside coming in. So there were multiple reasons why we did what we did. And he was absolutely right. So that cost was in one bucket of the Minuteman, and right now it's in the bucket of.
So these are assumed by the Neshoba district now.
So yes,
Yes.
that's exactly correct.
Was there a change in personnel?
Well, we would have to do exactly what our contract tells us to do, which is we'll have to open up those positions. The Bolton individual is retiring, I believe, and so that would be a wide open position, and then we would advertise for all three of those positions, and then it would be up to the principals to decide who they would hire the best person, and that person may well be that individual, or it might not be.
Right.
It's hard to say.
Okay, thank you.
In order to get here, this is what we've done across the district. We have eliminated 9 staff positions. Right now, 5 of those have been identified. That leaves 4 that have yet to be identified. We're not identifying them yet because we still may be able to do something else through natural attrition between now and the next couple of months. So we're kind of waiting on that. The first 5 for the most part, are kind of through natural attrition. So that doesn't mean though that there isn't impact, even though it's natural attrition, somebody still picks up the pieces that are left behind. So that's huge for us, to lose 9 positions.
Can you
Sure.
say anything about what, I don't know, okay.
Well, I shouldn't have cut you off, I apologize.
Well, no, cause I realized it might be sensitivity, I just was curious to know, like
Yeah, it is
programmatically.
This year was not so much about programs, but if we have to do this next year, there's nowhere else to go but to programs to cut. And then it will be full-scale programs right across the district. And we've already talked about that, we've already identified things that we'll look at for next year if we have to go down this road again. The programs that we could streamline where it made sense and we felt we could, we did that. So for example, our mentorship program, which we take a lot of pride in, which is a great program, we took a look at it and we said, you know what, we can't do what we've been doing in the past. We need to streamline it and only have certain amounts of people in that program, as opposed to everybody who is moving schools or coming newly into the district or whatever. So we did a lot of streamlining with that program and a couple of others. The OPEB funding, as you well know, we've been continuing to put money into our OPEB fund that we established 2 years ago. And we have money that's actually going to hit that fund this year, the next school year. But right now, instead of putting 100,000 in, we've got 50,000 that's scheduled right now to go in. And I don't know whether that will stay as of next Wednesday night or not. I'm not sure what's going to happen. That will be up to the school committee to decide. We've been doing the same thing for the track, the turf field and the track. And we've been doing that for the last probably 2 years as well. We established that pretty much at the exact same time, to be fiscally responsible, because we know that track has got to be replaced. We know that, that the top layer has, and Rob can certainly speak much more eloquently than I can. We know that, so, and we knew that we had a ballpark of a price tag that it was going to cost. So we have, over the last couple of years, we've consistently been putting money into that stabilization fund that we created just for that. So there is some money sitting in there right now. Initially, we were hoping that we could put about 100,000 in, but right now I think that's down to 50,000 as well. And the reason we're doing that, of course, is so that we don't have to come back and ask to borrow money to go back after and pay for it after. We were trying to be fiscally prudent with approaching it. And I mean, we've got some money in that account now as it sits. So it's just but just to let you know that we cut back on what we're putting in that account as well this year. The school non-salary lines, we had each of our principals go back and take a look, and you can't make the kind of cuts that we made with paperclip cuts, right? They're bodies, but you do go back and say, okay, can we look at trimming our PD budget? Can we look at trimming whatever it is that we're purchasing for our classrooms, or what does this look like? And so we did go back, and our principals all submitted. I think the high school submitted, I think it was close to 20,000, I think, that they submitted. So we did go back after the paperclip, in essence, as well as the bodies that we cut. Over the page, we went back and we took a look at our facilities budget, and Rob managed to come forward with that, and we're not asking for I don't think you're really asking for anything that you don't absolutely need for next year. So his budget has been cut pretty much to bare bones for next year. Additional IT reductions as well. Our IT director created 4 budgets for us, and we started off with budget number 1, then went to 2, and then went to 3, and now we're kind of at a hybrid between 3 and 4, right. And that's kind of where we've landed with the IT department. And then as I said before, the schools have made various reductions. I know that in the past, we've not wanted to put the word cuts out there, but I don't think it matters whether you call it a cut or a reduction or you're streamlining. That's what you're doing, and I've done that every year that I've been here. So I'm just putting it out there that you know, and we always look for efficiencies. I mean, that is an ongoing thing in the smaller, like the minutia of our budget. We're always looking to see if we can find efficiencies. So that's an ongoing process for us. So I think between that and the bigger piece, that's how we've landed where we've landed this year. Maybe you can speak to the additional information?
So, a year ago, about
Yeah.
a year ago now, the school committee voted to, use some of the excess, if you wanna call it excess, revolving funds, and a couple of the revolving funds that we have. $100,000 from revolving funds will be put towards the funding of OPEB. And this is outside of the budget.
So it's in addition to the 50 operating.
Right.
Yes, in addition. And 200,000 from the revolving funds will also go to the funding of the full-day kindergarten stabilization, so.
And I think those are the key salient points for budget. I don't know if you've got any questions for us on that before we move into the MSBA component?
Any questions?
I wouldn't mind if you don't mind returning to the original question I had. Do you happen to have the numbers for the other two towns? Because unless we've magically got 5 or 6 or 7% more from the state than we used to, I think these numbers just don't add up.
I can send you the assessment
Okay.
page and the enrollment
Okay, good.
page. I mean, it's complex,
I assume they must add up, but I just don't see it.
and.
I think it will make sense when you see the page.
Mhm.
So you can do
Okay.
that tomorrow?
Yes, I can do that for you.
Any other questions? Well, before we get onto the MSBA update, I guess I'll just make a comment, which is to say thank you for managing so aggressively to the number. And it sounded like it was really difficult and that there were some sacrifices, maybe more than some. So, you know, I don't speak for everybody, but I know that from our perspective, it makes a huge difference in our ability to balance our own budget this year.
And we understand that. We understand that. And I appreciate you saying that. Thank you very much. Not necessary, but thank you. So can I move to the MSBA project? Okay, so that's of course the high school, whatever it is that we end up doing with the high school, because we certainly have no preconceived notion for as a school district administration. That really will be up to our 3 communities to decide what they want to do. The eligibility phase, and I know that Brian, you're quite current on this, but if I might just go back and just give a little bit of a context here. So we have had sent in a statement of interest a year ago, and we thought we were so close to maybe getting invited into the program last year. They sent a team from New York in to take a look at the building and kind of compare it with the SOI. And at the time, I felt, and I still feel, is kind of to look at and see, well, this is what the superintendent wrote. Is this really true? That's what it felt like. It still feels like that. So this whole team from New York and Massachusetts came in last December and toured with some of our school committee members and certainly a large contingent of school district folks. We went through, and I thought we were in a really good spot. I thought, oh, we might get it. But alas, we did not. So the school committee decided to have me submit again, and so I've submitted again in January, late January of this year, to say, okay, here we are again. And in the meantime, I continued to call them every time we had a major thing go wrong at the school. So I would let them know that our pipes were close to freezing because our HVAC system went down again, and our alarm system doesn't work anymore because the parts are so antiquated, we can't get them anymore. So you just never know what's going to happen. So every time something like that would happen, I would call them and say, not for nothing, just wanted to let you know that we're still out here and we still need help. And so this year, it took a little bit of a different turn. We didn't hear anything, I don't think, until November. I think that's when I kept calling for updates, but there were none to be given. So finally in November, we got our first touch of, oh, we might be a little bit further in the process this year. So that was pretty exciting. So we had a readiness call, and we actually asked Mr. Zakansky to sit in on that call with us, and a series of other members, a couple of school committee members, again, a contingent from the school district. And at that point in time, their whole thing was to say, are you really ready to do this? Because the amount of work that goes into it, the amount of commitment, you know, don't put this forward if you're not really ready. I felt the readiness call went really well. And then the next phone call we got was to invite us to Boston for the day that they were going to put us on deck for the vote. And then, and that morning, of course, I'd like to point out, we were delaying schools that morning. So the people that were delaying the schools were all driving into the school at 6 o'clock in the morning to head into Boston for the vote. And then we were thrilled when it went through. So the very first stage, they basically hand you over, because we were in that SOI stage, and there's really a contingent of people at MSBA that help you through that process. Once you're voted in, you go into the next stage, which is where we're at, which is the eligibility phase. And that effectively doesn't start until June 1st. And that module is overseen by another group of people. And when we leave that phase to go into the feasibility phase, we're handed over again to another. So it's really interesting and fascinating, and I think brilliant, because you've got key players that know everything about, in our case, a regional school district, and what has to happen here, and what has to happen for the process, what has to happen to get this building ready, like whatever the project is, or the renovation, or whatever it is. We had done a lot of pre-work, so we were in a really good position. We were well poised, which is why I think we got it on the second try. There was a school there that got another, it was their 5th time that they had applied. So I felt really proud that we had gotten through the process on the second try. The feasibility study, which is a study after us, is the module where the actual study has to be done. But it's during this eligibility phase that we need to get the funds secured in order to move on to the feasibility study, which I can see how that makes sense. They're gonna wanna say, do you have the money here to support going into that next phase? We can't move into that phase until the MSBA takes a vote and officially moves us in. So that's part of the process as well. So we are doing a lot of work right now, pre-work to get us ready for the eligibility phase. And then, as you likely know, we have 270 days as of June 1st. And that, I think, finishes on February 26th, I wanna say, of 2021. So in talking with our town administrators, you know, about when do we put forward an article on a warrant that says we need funds to be able to do that. And it only made sense to do it at this town meeting because, of course, not all communities may have a fall meeting. They might, but they might not. And then if we wait till the next spring, it's past the 270 days. So that's why it's landed where it's landed. In terms of amount, we took a look and we called other school districts and spoke with other folks who had put it in. And you know, one of the big things they said is don't underestimate, because then you're gonna have to go back out and ask for more. So that's why we did, the school committee took a vote the other night with a not to exceed amount. And the not to exceed amount was 2 million, and that's because that was kind of the number that a number of school districts had used throughout the process, and they recommended that's the type of number that we shoot for.
And that's the feasibility study, the
Right.
full feasibility.
Exactly. And that, of course, as you well know, is when they say, okay, you can renovate and do this, that, or the other thing, or you can build new, or whatever that looks like. So it's during that particular phase. So that vote, we're looking for a vote on that debt authorization at the Maytown meeting.
Now, will that amount be apportioned? You're gonna divide it in thirds, how much are we going to be voting on?
I believe, and I haven't had council confirm this for us yet, but I believe it will be according to the enrollment at the high school, which would make sense.
Sure.
It's debt, and it's related to the high school, so it should probably follow the same. But, don't hold me to it, I don't have confirmation on that, but I'm assuming that's the way it would go.
And I think too, I think that we've shown good faith even in our other project that we just finished with the leach field and the oil tank. I mean, we came back, we worked with our numbers and we came back, and those two projects and things, huge thanks to Rob, went very, very smoothly. So we feel very comfortable. They came in right on par, right where we expected them to come in. So we felt really, really good about that. So we're hoping that this won't be the 2 million. We're thinking it's probably more likely around that 1.2, maybe 1.5. That's what we're projecting, but it would be foolhardy for us to go out with that kind of a number and then have it come in like 100,000 more or something, and then have to go back to the towns.
So I have a question about the mechanics, which maybe anybody in the room can answer. So is the question gonna be phrased the same for each of the 3 communities?
Identical.
Authorizing up to 2 million, and then you actually won't do the borrowing until you get approved.
Approved
go
to
the
even
next
go into the
phase.
feasibility study.
Okay, so it's not like it's hitting the books somehow July 1.
Not
No.
necessarily.
No, and so our taxpayers, our voters will be voting on an authorization of up to 2 million for the whole district. And then when
Right.
it actually comes to the assessment, when it's, okay.
That's exactly right.
All right.
Like, if it was equal in all communities, it'd be a third, a third, a third. Yeah.
So what happens when one town says no?
Then we don't do it.
Okay.
It dies. So,
It doesn't behave like other things with the school where if 2 towns say yes, the third one just gets it.
no, when you borrow, it's all towns. But having said that, I would also suggest that the vote would die that night. In my heart, I don't think it would die with me. I think I would want to go back after it, but yet another way,
Mhm.
and try another 1 or 2 times. And if it then fails at about try number 3, then I guess that we're done. But I wouldn't walk away from this if it dies that night.
So you're thinking a fall town meeting and a Christmas town meeting perhaps?
I don't know, sir. But, yeah, we have come so far on this project to walk away now. I mean, that is the community's decision, and I will respect that. But I worry that if folks think that it's saving us money to just continue status quo, that just isn't the case. I mean, the roof leaks everywhere. I mean, don't start us on, the birds that, I don't know if you saw the school committee the other night, the birds that nest above, inside our walls. And I mean, it's, at some point in time, the projects are just too big, and we've just seen that with the leach field and the oil tank. 500,000, like, we don't have small $5,000 or $10,000 things that go wrong with that building. It's all big, and so I hope that people will think that it's going to cost money if we stay there, probably more money than if we move the other way, because you're still gonna have the 60-year-old building, no matter what you do with it, so I'm just not gonna walk away after the first time, I guess.
Okay.
So that's that. I don't know if that's the answer you were looking for, but the next page is what is a feasibility study, just in case you weren't familiar with that. We just put a couple of key salient points there for you. And that's it for us. Other than capital items, I don't know if you've got any questions on capital items, both Rob and Pat are here if you'd like to ask them questions. And if you think of other questions you'd like to ask me, please don't hesitate to send me an email and I'll get back to you on the budget or the MSBA.
Okay, thank you. Just a couple of quick questions on capital. So we had a meeting with our town administrator a couple weeks ago, and I just want to be clear, so there were 2 projects that he's prioritizing, the pump and the window repair.
Right.
Okay, so,
Yeah, I'm aware of that, and I've communicated that to Brooke and to Rob.
okay,
So,
all right, just
We
wanted,
understand.
okay, I just wanted to make sure that we were all on the same page.
Yeah. That's okay, yeah.
Any other questions? Did Did you have anything you wanted to add, or?
No, I mean, if you have any questions on either, I mean, the window repairs, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
There's a number of windows that, the balances are broken on them, so, they're tough to open, they won't stay open, so, a building that doesn't have air conditioning, properly functioning windows is, would be nice.
Yeah.
And the booster pump station, I think it's when they built the school, that's when it was installed. It runs, on a consistent, flow, so, if 4 or 5 toilets are flushed, it ramps up to 100% of its capacity, where the new system will be on VFDs. So you'll see energy savings, the longevity of the pumps and all the mechanicals, it will be a lot longer. So it's time, every time Gustavo Preston comes in, that's our PM company, and they come in and do our preventative maintenance on the pump station. They're very concerned about its longevity, so they were just here a couple weeks ago, and they says, you need to really start thinking about it. I'm like, it's on the agenda, so, it's definitely time, because once that goes down, we lose water to Sawyer, Emerson, and Central Office. So it's really basically the heart of the water system.
Yeah. Was there a question back there?
I just had a quick question. There's one article outstanding. I believe it's for carpet replacement.
Yep, we were supposed to do some of it over February break. They couldn't accommodate that schedule. They're actually gonna be here on the 14th to do part of it, and then coming back hopefully on April 20th to finish it.
Awesome, thank you.
Welcome.
Okay. That's it.
That's it. Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us,
Thank you.
and I appreciate
Yeah,
it very
nice
much.
to see you again.
Nice to see you. Thank you so much.
Good to see you, Brian.
Good to see you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank
Oh,
you.
I'm sorry, I'm not shaking hands.
It was here when I
It was
started.
just here.
What did you, was so nice, right?
See you soon.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Good night, thank you.
Thank you.
Since you're both still here, I have a quick question. We haven't gotten a copy of the warrant yet.
At all?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you had.
Me either.
So I haven't,
What?
um,
Well, we'll fix that tomorrow.
so what I was thinking is, we don't really have anything specific on the agenda for next Tuesday. So if the timing works for you, I was thinking we would wait until the 17th, do all of our cleanup, and also that would give us 2 weeks to review the warrant and just be ready to go that day. And then if there's questions, I can get them to you before the 17th.
Sure, I expect our council is reviewing the latest version of the warrant now. Some minor changes at this point, and I expect to have it Thursday. So
Okay.
we can get you the updated version Thursday. And, yeah, I apologize for that, I didn't know that. Also, the one article that isn't on there yet is, well, there's 2 articles that aren't on there yet. One is the wording for the feasibility study that has to come from the district, because it needs to be identical in all 3 towns. And then, as you may or may not know, Thursday night, the Mosquito Control Committee is doing its presentation to the public. And then once that meeting is complete, and then we circle back again next Tuesday, then whatever article is proposed for the warrant will come from the mosquito control, or the direction will come from the Mosquito Control Committee, and then we'll get the article written for the warrant.
Okay.
Everything else is pretty much done.
Okay.
And I will not be here on the 17th. I'm at school.
Okay. When are you back from school?
I'm gone the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So I'll be back Thursday.
Okay. Well, we can talk about this later, but I think it might make sense to maybe have one person from town hall come on the 17th, just so that we're buttoning things up appropriately. Cause we'll vote on all the articles, and then, I think there's just like a handful of budgets that we need to finalize.
So you need to have Parks and Recs back in.
Yeah, exactly, that's the one I was thinking of, and then actually our dues, I know our dues are changing by, I think, 3%, so I need to get the number for that.
You're the slackers, you haven't submitted your budget yet.
I know.
If it'd be helpful to have me here on the 17th, I can be here.
It is
Okay.
St. Patrick's.
We haven't given them our
Oh, it's-
bill.
Wait, it's St. Patrick's Day?
It is St. Patrick's.
Yeah.
I had to,
So we could start around, what, 4? And-
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, so is there a motion to adjourn?
I have a question. Did you ever get an updated number for new growth?
Oh,
so, new growth. No, but what I did do is I went back, and I wish I had brought it with me. I did a 15-year look back of all historical new growth, and out of that 15 years, including the recession, there was only 1 year, and it was 199,900 below 200. We have never, in the last 15 years, had 150,000.
Right.
I feel very comfortable with the 200,000. I mean, if you took an average, it'd be 285, close to 300. So,
And if we're a bad year, we were talking about this morning, if this were a bad year, I'd be comfortable going to 225. But it's not a horrible year, it's just a somewhat difficult year right now. So, she's absolutely right, there was no year that's lower than 199.4 or something like that. So 200,000 is an extremely comfortable number.
But just anecdotally, it seems like every square foot of available land
that's what I
is
see. I
being
mean, there's
developed.
building everywhere I go in town. I would be hard pressed to see how we would have a new growth number of 150.
yeah, good question. All right, now is there a motion to adjourn?
I
move
so-
we adjourn.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, good night.
Is this yours or is this just
That's just extra.
I was going to say something about the school district reducing its overtime.
And then
But then she did say there.
I was just gonna say.
an additional 100 from magical results.
It used to be